Cloudscape Comics is a charity publisher and a community organization that's dedicated to both publishing BC comics and helping people learn about how to make comics and how to meet new people that make comics. Since 2007, Cloudscape Comics has been an organization. We started off in a little coffee shop where people were doing comic jams together. Jeff Ellis, Jonathan Dalton, and Angela Mellick all decided that maybe comic jams is a good start, but we could also be doing more because there's so much talent in BC. So they made Cloudscape Comics to start publishing those people. There's something that's so fantastic about the mixture of writing and art and sequential storytelling that is just makes it something that a book or a painting can never be. Cloudscape Comics found out about the field houses a couple years ago and decided that this would be a great chance to not only give the organization an HQ, but allow us to start interacting more with the public and seeing if we can not only teach them how to enjoy comics, but also to make them and to start to promote the BC comics industry. We do a lot of events, we do a lot of classes, we make public art. One of the things that we do are comic jams, which is an innovative kind of improv storytelling for drawing. But we also make murals comics that don't disintegrate in the rain. And we tell refugee stories using public art as well.
So today we're here at the Sunset Community Center doing Family Day, where a lot of local charities, groups, arts groups, sport groups are holding tables and activities. What Cloudscape is doing is a series of comic jams. Our comic jam is where one person creates a single panel starting off a story, and then they hand that paper to somebody else who draws the next panel. And then that person hands it to someone else who draws the next panel. And together they create a story that's often wildly different than what it started. It's a great way for improv storytelling. It's a good way to just improve one's storytelling in comics in general, their drawing abilities, and it's a great way to engage with the community, as it often ends up quite funny, and the kids like making something together.
Cloudscape is doing this because we think the comic talent in BC is quite rich and could really be developed with some handling and some promotion and a little bit of support in learning how to make the comics. Both from the people of young age to the people of senior age. Anybody can make comics, and we wanted to really get that home to people that this is an art form that anybody can do. Most people have done their own comic books. A lot of them have appeared in our anthologies. Like I said, Comics in Transit is another thing we've done, which tells refugee stories and puts them in bus shelters around the city. We've also used our comics to help charities. We've raised funds for cancer and that kind of thing. And we've shown kids how to tell a story using somebody else's starting point and learn how to really think creativity that way. For many people, it's their first chance at publication, so it's a very proud moment for a lot of our artists. I remember my first time being published in a Cloudscape Comics anthology, and I thought I'd made it to the big leagues. I hadn't, but it was a great feeling. A more recent feeling was seeing people enjoy our comics in the bus shelters around Vancouver. A few of the teachers in elementary schools around Vancouver have asked if we could use the comics as teaching resources. So it's nice to see that our comics can be used as an educational tool in the future. Most of our comics can be found in local comic book stores like Metropolis Comics, Big Pete's, those kinds of places. The Comics in Transits, they're down right now, but when they were up, you could be finding them in bus shelters around Vancouver. Otherwise, you can find us just helping people learn how to draw either in our studio or at some of the community centers around Vancouver, like the Sunset Community Center or the Killarney Community Center. Comics are quite an isolating art form. Sometimes you think you're the only person making any, chains you to your desk, and it's not exactly a social activity. Doesn't mean it has to be that way. If you come down to Cloudscape Comics or any other comics group in your city, you get to meet a lot of creative people, you get to learn from them, share your stories with them, get tips, and otherwise make friends that are interested in the same kind of art that you are. If you want to join Cloudscape, they have Wednesday night meetings at 7:30 here at the HQ, and they're open to anybody age 17 and up. And then to become a member, you just have to be there 3 times at some point in your life, and you're counted within our roster. Our anthologies, previously our anthologies were voted upon by the membership once a year at the annual general meeting. They would choose a theme, we would put that out to the public, and people would submit their stories to us for curating into the book. And our projects were kind of made in the same way anyone might make a curated magazine. Other things like the classes or the events we do with the public, we approach a lot of community centers to see if they need our help with any upcoming events. And sometimes when there is nothing going on, no family days or anything like that, we throw events here. Like our series of classes we had in the summertime called Cloud Shops, which had which had a lot of comic artists each teaching a specific subject about how to make comics, ranging from how to make sculptures for your characters to learning how to make spreadsheets to track your sales. And then for Comics in Transit, the inspiration was once again education and how comics can be used to do something other than entertain, maybe teach people about what it's like to be a refugee in Canada.
So what was the...
There are so many. Getting the studio for the first time was a great experience because suddenly we had so many more resources, so many new opportunities to teach people about comics, to show them what can be done with comics and how we may challenge their expectations about comics as an actual art form. But there was also a lot of other great feelings about like publishing 3 books in 1 year, which was a huge feat for us, or getting our comics into the public sphere outside of a book, doing book launches over at the Vancouver Maritime Museum, those kinds of things. I can't think of any one particular experience, but it's always been a great roller coaster. Hopefully in the future, we'd like to publish at least 3 books a year. We'd like to have a series of ongoing classes, and we'd like to continue our Comics in Transit project, which involves taking comics outside of the book format and putting them out into the public in bus shelters.